What's up?
What's up? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? It's your boy Bearded King and your boy Big J, and we are here for a second episode of Scared Senseless. How's it going, Big Broski?
Oh, it's going, brother. How are you?
Can't complain. Odds are better. I'm in it to win it. Let's get it.
That's awesome news, man. I was actually worried about you last night. Like I got on there and nobody was responding. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope everything's all right.
You had a scared senseless moment for real,
I
reals.
did. I was like, where's my broski at?
So yeah, my eyes were bothering me. So for those that are tuned in, I just want to say I apologize. I was really looking forward to last night's podcast, but here we are tonight, making up for it. And we're gonna give you guys the best that we can do. And I think we can definitely rock this show tonight. So
Oh yeah, for
without further ado, Beard, would you like to start us off?
all right. Tonight we're gonna be discussing serial killers, infamous serial killers, which majority of people out there I know has heard of. There's three main top serial killers that is world renowned. That would be Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy. We'll probably cover these over several different episodes, but tonight we're going to cover Jeffrey Dahmer, which I got to say, Big J's got a little bit of intel on it, but from what he knows and what I've learned, it's severely brutal and gnarly. It would very, very, very scary situations.
There he is.
Yeah. And a lot of the gory details we won't get into, but we'll give like a rundown of the basics. Try not to get too nasty with it.
Right.
But yeah. So Big J, let me see. I gotta think how to ask this. Um, you how much do you know about, like, what have you heard before what I've actually filled you in a little bit about on Jeffrey Dahmer?
So to be honest, like growing up, their names would be mentioned and just like different people saying different things. Honestly, I didn't know like the actual stats, like the facts, the stat sheet, and you kind of opened my mind on a lot of the stuff, and it's just like, whoa, like for real, like it's like how can somebody have that kind of a mindset? Like it's just mind blowing,
It is
and
like
it's just
it's like it really gives you the itch to want to know what is going on in their heads to make them do these things.
right.
And I gotta say, it's truly mind blowing. But I guess we'll just jump into it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Jeffrey Dahmer. Like I said, everybody knows, everybody's heard the name. It's world renowned. Dahmer was born May  21st, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His parents, Joyce and Lionel, um, like I think she worked as a some kind of machine operator, at a teletype machine operator, and his dad was a chemistry student who would later go on to actually be a licensed chemist at a university, I believe. Um, as a child, everything seemed normal. I mean, his mom had some issues with depression and stuff like that. She really fought with that. There was a couple of attempts of suicide um, on with his mother, but even I don't think any of that contributed. I mean, they end up later divorcing, yes, but um, anyway, where his dad was a chemist, as a kid, Jeffrey Dahmer heard his dad packing bones from an animal or something, and he loved the way that it sounded, which really intrigued him. He loved it, so he would go out and he would find dead animals, and he also kind of I don't know how to say this, took some animals' lives of his own just to dissect them and collect their bones, and he would discard of the rest of the stuff in the garbage or throw it in a field out back of his house. I guess it's cringy, like really cringy.
Yeah, it's like you get a chill just thinking about all of this. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and he would some of the times, like in this picture you're seeing right here, when he was that age, these animals, before he actually started like throwing away the remains, he would bury them and then take the skull of that animal and post it up on a stick, like a
hmm,
twisted little sick grave marker.
jeez.
And during his trials and everything, I'm not really jumping ahead, but he was considered to be sane, perfectly sane. Um, but he went to school. They did the dissecting in was it chemistry, or what class was that does the dissecting? I can't remember.
Um, that sounds about right. Like,
Yeah, it was one of his classes, and normally places dissect frogs. I've never heard of a school doing what he did,
right.
but they let him dissect pigs, little baby pigs, and um, after he got done dissecting it, he snuck it home and kept the remains and kept the bones, and just became like a little bone collector. Um, like he suffered a lot of anti-socialism, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some friends and stuff like that as he grew up, but as he grew up, the anti-socialism got more severe. Um, and as you can see right there, he still loved animals up to a certain age, and then he started, killing them. He even found I can't remember what kind of animal it was, but he found a roadkill and dissected it and nailed it to a tree, and then mounted the skull on top of it as a sick, twisted joke. Then he went and told his friends that's something he found when he was actually one that did it. He tried to play it off like it was a satanic ritual. And like, honestly, I don't know what was going through his mind as a child, what it was about the sound of bones rattling together and stuff like that. But as a child and being into that kind of stuff, that's really creepy. I mean, could you imagine, Big J, just seeing some kid out there? Say you got a neighbor and their kids out there just like cutting open the animals and just playing in their entrails and stuff.
Definitely would be disturbing, and it would be something that would be talked about, and have a lot of the community concerned for sure.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But yeah, he was born in on May 21st, 1960, in Milwaukee. Which in '66, I believe his family moved to Doylestown, Ohio. Which I'm actually not sure how far that is away from me, because I live in northern Kentucky. You know, so I'm right there next to Ohio. So that's a little creepy.
Yeah.
Which I believe is where he committed his first murder. Um, not not on an animal. It was an actual physical human being. It was a hitchhiker, and he had these urges that he literally, before he even met this hitchhiker, he had urges and thoughts of male domination, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he didn't like the females. We'll say that. And he's driving along one day, coming home from the mall, and he sees this hitchhiker by the name of Steven. I won't give his last name. And he drives by him a little bit, and he starts thinking. He said, "Should I just leave him, or should I go around and pick him up?" So he decides to turn around. He goes back and picks up Steven. He had no shirt on, and that's what really drew Dahmer to this guy is the sexual attraction, I guess you'd say. Um, he takes this guy back to his house. I think he was around 18 or 19 years old, I do believe. Um, he takes this guy back to his house, and I can't really remember he wanted to leave. The hitchhiker, he talked him into going there and having a few drinks, and that's what got the hitchhiker to actually get in the car with him. And then the hitchhiker, Steven, actually wanted to leave, and Dahmer didn't want him to. He wanted that guy to do whatever Dahmer wanted, and he kind of lost control. He said he had an urge. So Dahmer picked up a 10-pound workout dumbbell and just cracked this guy's skull, just completely caved it in, completely killed him. And that was his first murder. And that really makes you think about hitchhikers, and you never know who you're getting in the car with.
Right.
That's just something I could never do. If it comes down to me being stranded somewhere, I'm gonna walk.
Right.
Ain't nobody picking me up.
Right, because it can be both ways. It can be the person picking you up, or it can be the person that's riding. So you never really know.
Yeah, you never know. But he takes the body and he stands over it after this guy's already dead. And okay, I don't know how to explain this. He pleases himself over top of the dead body. Yeah, this guy was really sick and twisted. Like this sends like severe chills up my spine just even talking about it.
Right.
After that, he skins the guy. He collects his bones. Tries to preserve his skull in some kind of an acid and other kind of chemical boil. He boils the skull, trying to keep it for pleasure purposes. And he found out it was too brittle, so he literally busted up all the bones and scattered them in the field out behind his house. Oh, man, this guy's so brutal. And then after that first time, there was a small break there where he didn't really do anything. He just kind of went off the radar, and then he kind of got in a mindset that, hey, I just got away with murder. Nobody knows. So in his mind, he thought he could do it again, and he did. But the second guy, I can't remember his name. I think his name was Steven as well. There was two Stevens. He brought home.
Was it Stephen Hicks?
No, that's the first one. Hicks was the first one. Toomey was the second.
Okay.
Yeah, Toomey was the second. Toomey he brought home with no intentions to kill. Period. He just wanted to spend the night with this guy and hang out with him. Well, he talked him into going back home with him and having a few drinks, and that they did. And then they passed out, or Dahmer claims to have completely blacked out. When he woke up the next morning, his knuckles were completely bruised and bloodied. This guy had blood coming out of his mouth, chest all smashed in and bruised and all that. And Dahmer had no recollection of murdering this guy, period. Like, he said he just completely blacked out. So, like, what could you have been on to actually make you black out to do that and not realize what you've done?
Jeez.
I mean, I don't understand it. So he does the same thing with this victim, but he takes Polaroid. He took Polaroid pictures of the process of dismemberment and all that jazz. But he tries to preserve the skull. It doesn't work. And he ends up like I think it was like a month or two later, smashes it up, smashes the bones up, and spreads them in the field out back, and gets rid of like the rest of it within garbage bags and stuff. Um, and then his junior year in high school, he starts really. He started really getting into alcoholism really bad because of the anti-socialism. So that followed him up into college, and eventually, when he moved to somewhere with his grandma, where was that? Can't remember. He moved in with his grandma, and while he lived with her, he started attending church. He didn't murder anybody for like 6 years or so. He started going to church, got him a full-time job. Um, he was working, making his own money. He still had the alcohol problem, but yeah, his grandma didn't approve of that. But he was at the library one day, and he was sitting there reading a book, and some random guy comes up and throws a wadded up piece of paper in front of him. Like I said, this is a 6 year period between his last murder and what was about to happen. Um, Dahmer opens up the piece of paper and reads it, and it says, "Hey, if you want a, we'll say, fellatioed, uh, a BJ, basically, meet me in the bathroom." So at that point, he tried religion. He was getting moving towards God. He wasn't thinking about murders or sexual urges or anything like that. The second that he read this note, he said it instantly came back to him. The urges, the itch, all that. So he ended up getting this guy to go back to his house, where he drugged with sleeping pills and strangled him to death.
Mm.
Took pictures of the dismemberment process, did things to the corpse before he actually dismembered him. I probably should have mentioned that. Yeah, he violated the corpse after they was dead. I don't know if there was anything going on before the actual murder, um, but like it just comes back to what is going on in their minds.
Really, like it's
It's
just
it's creepy.
it is, man. Like
A lot of psychologists they compare it to like a child playing with insects, pulling the legs off of spiders. That's what they compare serial killers' minds to.
jeez.
Yeah. But he he dismembered it, took pictures of it, disposed of it all. And that after 6 years of not committing the murder, it took one small little note to read to completely set him back into his old ways.
Right.
And this man murdered a total of, I think it was 16 men over the course of 13 years, I believe. And as the murders, they're all basically the same kind of style of murder. He would drug them. Um, and now one of the bathhouses, which I didn't know what a bathhouse was, kind of still don't, but there's a bathhouse club that he used to go to pick up some of his victims. It was a place for male get-togethers. That's where he would meet most of his victims, talk them into coming home, making $50 for posing for nude pictures and stuff, and that's where he would drug them and stuff. Eventually, they noticed that most of their clientele was missing and then kicked him out. And then
Yeah.
he started moving to a hotel to commit his murders and all that good stuff. But you know, once he got to a certain point, he wanted to try something new. He wanted full domination. He wanted these people to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, sexually. So instead of killing them, he would drug them, put them to sleep, drill a hole in the top of their skull, and put a straw or a tube or something in there and pour acid and fluids into their skull, trying to zombify him, trying to keep him alive to satisfy him sexually. And they would wake up in the mid process of this and just have a headache, a massive migraine.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would continue to strangle them until they was no longer living. Which after he would violate the corpse and dismember them, he then started cutting off their genitals, their heads, hands, and muscles like leg muscles, and store it in the freezer along with their hearts. He would store this stuff in a freezer and eat it. He would cook it and eat it. Yeah, like I just don't understand. I mean, there's got to be health hazards with that, right?
Right.
Yeah, I ate a 33-year-old liver yesterday. Is that good for me? I mean, I couldn't imagine that. I just couldn't do it. But he, like I said, he went on to murder 16 people over the course of 3 years. And eventually, when he got caught, one guy escaped. I can't remember exactly how he escaped, but he escaped and alerted authorities. And when they actually arrested Dahmer, he was relieved. He was a little upset, but still relieved. He didn't give the cops no issues, none. He didn't fight them. He didn't fight anything. He said that he couldn't control the urges, and he knew what he was doing was wrong. And he wanted to stop. So by him getting arrested, they, it put him at ease, knowing he wasn't going to hurt anybody anymore. So he gets arrested. I can't exactly remember what his sentence was. It was hydrochloric acid that he poured into their skulls, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, they would just come out of it saying they had a headache. I'm kind of jumping back here real quick.
Oh no, you're fine. I was actually looking too, and I'm trying to.
Let's see. I think he was sentenced to life in prison, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's him. That man. I mean, just looking in his face, like Big J. What do you get when you just look at this guy, knowing a little bit of the past that he had, what he had done? What's the vibe that you get from looking at that?
That's a stone cold killer right there, man.
Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, he was sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences. How somebody like that didn't get death row, we'll never know. His parents was truly shocked. They had no. I mean, he kept this a secret from everybody for 13 years. So, I mean, that also makes you think that, is this guy in his right mind? Does he actually know what he's doing? But yet, in another sense, this dude is a mastermind by getting away with this for as long as he has. Now, given back then, our technology wasn't as good as it is today as far as figuring stuff like this out.
Yeah.
Like it just creeps me out just staring at his pictures. And like I said, I've watched some of his interviews. He was in prison. He still had these urges, and he said that he couldn't fight them, but there was nothing he could do about them in prison. So he turned back to religion, and he was becoming a normal inmate, whatever that may mean. And to hear him talk in his own words about what he had done and just to hear the calmness in his voice and the look on his face is really, really frightening. And that makes you think, what kind of, like, my neighbor could be doing the same thing and I never know it.
Right.
And males, females, it don't matter.
They don't.
It's scary being out there in the world, especially late at night or by yourself in the world that we've come to today. People's gotten a lot worse and more brutal, and but
It's a scary thought knowing that just things like this can happen, and as scary as this it is, like it still goes on as we speak. And my best advice is, if you can't, if you have to leave at night, make sure you're with somebody else. Stay protected at all times. Just you
right.
know
Yeah,
because you never know.
always try to have some form of communication on you, like a cell phone.
Cell phone at all times.
That
Yes.
way, if you got a chance to make that call to get help, then do it. But okay, Dahmer gets sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences. I am skipping over a lot of the murders that he done because they were so brutal that I don't really think these platforms would allow us to discuss that.
Right.
But um, I'm probably pushing the envelope with what I've already expressed, but let's hope not. So he gets sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences. He is in prison I think it was in California, I do believe. Hang on, let me re-Google this. I've lost a few of my facts.
It's just like so much stuff. So much.
Oh yeah. Like he was at the Columbia Correctional Institution in 1994, which I think he was in 80, it might have been 91. But and on November 28th, 1994, he was put on cleaning duty with two other men, Christopher Scarver and Jesse Anderson, to clean the bathrooms. And Scarver heard and read about what Dahmer had done. And I guess he knew he was going to be working with him that day, so he swiped a dumbbell from the workout area. And while Dahmer had his back turned, Scarver caved in Dahmer's skull in prison in 1994, killing him, and then turned around and killed Jesse Anderson, the other guy that was in there cleaning with him. Now, I'm not sure the reason behind killing Anderson, but I know that Scarver said the reason he wanted Dahmer dead and the reason he killed him was because he seen that he had no remorse for what he had done. He didn't feel guilty. He didn't care what he had done. And that drove Scarver crazy. He just, this guy's sick and twisted. But the thing is Dahmer got murdered the same way that he murdered his first victim, by crushing their skull with a 10-pound dumbbell. So that's quite ironic, if you ask me.
It is. Yeah, very much so.
Like I said, I don't know why Scarver killed Anderson. I don't know if it was a witness thing he didn't want to witness. Scarver had nothing to lose. He was facing the death penalty, I believe. So he just wanted to he knew that, life sentence for Dahmer was nothing if he didn't care what he had done. He didn't care where he was. He wanted to make Dahmer pay for what he had done to all those men. And there was a lot of, families and friends of the deceased that was actually really relieved that Dahmer was murdered.
Right.
A lot of them was mad that he didn't get the death sentence, that he wasn't facing the death penalty. I think they pushed for the death penalty, but they kind of threw it off the table because it was a big argument between if he was insane or sane, and the test came back that he was physically sane, but these urges caused him to have a really weird mindset. So I guess they kind of used that to throw death off the table. You know, but like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, Big J, in your opinion, do you think Dahmer deserved to go out the way he did, or do you think that the government should have handled it as far as a death row thing, or do you think he should have just served his life in prison? That's a tough question.
That's a tough call. I mean, to be honest, I feel like when people do something and they know that it's wrong, they should get penalized for it. And for everything that he's done, I think they could have did a little bit more.
Right. And see where you said that he knew that it was wrong. He knew that it was wrong from the first one, but yet continued to do it.
Right. And just him feeling like he can do it from time to time over the years and not get caught is just wrong.
Oh yeah.
Just that mindset, oh, well, I got away with it. Let me see if I can do it again. Like that. He must have had like some kind of adrenaline or something. Like it's just sickening. You know what I mean? But
oh yeah,
it gives me chills just thinking about it, man. Like
it's scary. I mean,
could
you imagine being one of the victims in his apartment and not knowing what's about to happen? I mean, there wouldn't be really no fear in you, but once because like I said, you don't know what's about to happen. You think you're there to make money, to pose nude, to try to get in, because a lot of these guys that he picked up was aspiring models. They were trying to be male model types, and that's what he used to lure a lot of them in, was the promise of, hey, I'll give you $50, come pose for nudes, and we'll try to push your what you're trying to do.
Right.
And a lot of people back then in the 70s, 80s, it wasn't easy.
$50 was a lot.
Oh yeah. That was a lot of money back then.
Right.
And to be a male model back then, was a harder gig than it was in the 90s, roughly, because in the 90s, that's when like Calvin Klein really started pushing male models.
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher started his male modeling career back then.
Yeah.
So back in the 70s and 80s, male models wasn't used all that much, and so they saw a chance and they took it and fell for Dahmer's tricks.
Right.
But another question I got, just out of curiosity, Jay, say you was a cop that was involved with the arrest of Dahmer. Say you went into his residence and you opened up his freezer and seen the frozen hearts, the muscles, the genitalia, all that. What would be your first thought? Because I'm telling you, he cut all this out, froze it to consume it.
I definitely would have a talk with the man upstairs. Like I would definitely value my life and just, I would probably try to contain my composure, but I feel like I would probably freak out a little bit.
Oh yeah. Like, because you see something like that, like it happens, like when you drive down the road and you see a car accident or something. The first thing comes to your mind, or one of the things that come to my mind, I don't know if this is just me, is that could be somebody that I love. That could be somebody that I know. And I couldn't imagine, opening up a freezer and, say my brother's been missing forever, and I open up a freezer and find body parts. I'm sitting there thinking, yo, is this my family member? And the first urge I'm going to get is, I want to rip this dude's head off.
Right.
But as a law official, you can't do that.
You can't. True.
But
that would definitely mess with you mentally.
Oh yeah. That's something you just can't unsee.
Right.
And like some of the images that I send you, which we will not show on here. So if y'all have interested in that, like anybody will have to look that up on their own. Um, you've seen the pictures.
Right. And it's
Those
just very
you can't
disturbing.
unsee that. You can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah. Like I really wish that you could have seen the interview and just seen the look on this guy's face as he talks about it so calmly.
No
But
remorse.
but the thing is he takes full responsibility for it. You ask a lot of people, you walk up to him and say, Jeffrey Dahmer, why do you think he did what he did? What do you think caused him to have the mindset that he did? A lot of people is going to tell you it was his upbringing, his parents, his mom going through depression, committing suicide, the arguments, the divorce, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in the interview, he says that people need to stop saying that because his parents had nothing to do with it. He takes full responsibility for it. He said that he loved his parents, they loved him. That the society needed to quit using that for an excuse for what he did. That's no excuse. He said that his urges is the only excuse for why he did what he did. It was all on him. So I gotta say, I give the man respect for taking full responsibility for that.
His actions.
Yeah, and not trying to pawn it off on some other reason.
Right. Because there, plenty of them are quick to blame it on somebody else.
Oh yeah. They always blame their problems on other people. And I've seen a lot of interviews of serial killers, and they blame their parents for their upbringing and all the arguing, fighting, or the abuse, the sexual abuse, whatever they went through, they'll blame it on that for what. But truly, if you know what you're doing is wrong, but you continue to do it, that's on you.
Agreed.
Uh, but people like Dahmer, man, I wish, I wish it wouldn't happen. I feel bad for all the families that had
Right.
to suffer the losses of their family members like that, or suffering the losses. Period. I mean, it's just
Right.
a bad situation.
It really is.
Yeah. But Dahmer isn't the only one out there. But I gotta say, he was one of the more twisted, perverted, or sick. He says himself that he was sick. Um, and why do you think, Big J? Why do you think he committed these murders? In your opinion, I mean, I know you don't have really much to go on, but in your opinion, why do you think he committed the murders?
I feel like, it was something that he tried, and maybe because he got away with it, it became a mind game. It became a game to him. Maybe he just thought that, he could see how long he can do it before he actually get caught.
That has a little bit to actually play in on it. He, like I said, he got away with the first one, and he was like, "Hey, I can keep doing this." And that's why. Well, on the second one, he didn't mean to kill the guy. Like I said, Stephen Toomey. He woke up. He said he blacked out, but he took the grace period, and then that guy re-triggered him, and he started killing again. But the real reason that he murdered and did what he did, in his own words, was it wasn't out of hatred. It wasn't out of wanting the rush or anything like that. The reason he done what he done is he wanted to keep these people with him forever. He loved them. He wanted to make a life. He said every single one of his victims he loved. He wanted to have a relationship with them, and admitted that if they had just done what he wanted, been a submissive, basically let him be the dominant, that he probably wouldn't have killed him. But the fact
Wow.
that they wanted to leave the next day or something is why he did what he did.
Mm.
Um, so that's why he would kill him, dismember him, take pictures of the dismemberment process. And that goes also back to the zombifying, why he was, knocking them out, drilling a hole, pouring the hydrochloric acid into their brains, and trying to zombify them, trying to turn them into like a zombie, so
Right.
they'll be there and do what he wants when he wants, because he was a sick, twisted pervert. And like he, I completely lost track of what I was saying. Scratch your ear and you lose track. What is going on? Yeah, he just went. That's why he would dismember them, take photographs, and freeze and eat their body parts, because then they would become a part of him, and he could keep them with him. So what in the world would give you that mindset?
And they said he was sane, right?
Yeah, they said he was perfectly sane.
Wow.
I mean, they said there was a few little sparks or some stuff he said in one interview, and then the next, it all equal out that he was perfectly sane.
You know, eh, like you say, just looking at a lot of these different things that's happened, that he did, and everything he'd been through, it's just horrific, man. It's disturbing.
It really is. And
It's,
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of regret having you look at the pictures that I sent you, because, like I said, the pictures that those were taken by Jeffrey Dahmer himself. Those were actual Polaroids that he took during the process, dismemberment process. And that's another thing I actually forgot to mention, is in some of those pictures you've seen, they just kind of twisted up.
yeah.
He would take their bodies and mold them or set them like a certain statue that he liked. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and that's why you've seen them, the really disturbing images that you did. Oh, and another thing that I also forgot, in prison, the one thing that really set Christopher Scarver off to murder Jeffrey Dahmer was he seen him in the cafeteria eating his dinner, lunch, whatever. He would take his food and shape them into body parts and use ketchup to resemble blood.
Oh man.
But I mean, his urges, his obsession was still continuing in prison, even though he was, seeking religion, finding God. He still had urges, and that right there is exactly what got Scarver to dig into Jeffrey Dahmer. And once Scarver found out what Jeffrey Dahmer had done, that's when he killed Dahmer.
Yeah.
Um, but Dahmer, yeah, he doesn't blame his parents. He doesn't blame his upbringing. He doesn't blame the alcoholism. Oh, another thing I forgot, because I didn't actually want to get into the brutal murders, but there was one part of them. He took a guy's head, severed his guy's head off, put it in his bag, and took it to work with him at a chocolate factory. Yeah, the I can't remember the name of the chocolate factory. Hang on. The Ambrosia Chocolate Company, which I've heard of Ambrosia Chocolate before. I don't know if they're still in business or not. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he. This is why I'm single. I, that just caught me off guard. I couldn't help that one. Um, could you imagine going to work and not knowing that the guy in the locker next to you has a severed head that he uses for pleasuring purposes in his locker at work at a chocolate factory? This chocolate that is being made and sent out to the public for public consumption.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's so gross, man. That almost makes me not want to eat chocolate ever again. No, I can't do
Yeah.
that. Reese's are too good, and I can't turn away that chocolate. You know how it is. Well, rather, certain people doesn't understand Reese's Pieces. Anyway,
Right.
but yeah, Dahmer was a sick, twisted freak. I know I probably shouldn't put it that way, but in my opinion, he. I know it's not for me to judge, but I think he kind of got what he deserved. And
Yeah,
he
most
went out.
definitely.
Yeah, he went out the exact same way that he killed his first victim.
You
He
know,
you know,
there's a word that is for that situation. It happens to a lot of people. They say what goes around comes around.
hmm
There's a thing. It starts with the letter K.
uh-huh, yeah, yes, sir. Um, but to the smell alone was covered up by um, I can't remember how. I know incense were involved to cover up smells. I don't know. I understand how you could burn an incense in your locker at work and not get in trouble for it.
I just don't understand how. It was pretty much like he was testing people,
Yeah,
and they just didn't detect it or sense it or smell it or wow.
yeah. Like it would, it would eventually start rotting, and I know this is really disturbing, and I apologize, but it would eventually start, fading into nastiness, and that smell would be horrid. It would
Yeah.
be, even with incense, would be hard to cover that smell. I know he said he only kept it in there for like 2 weeks, and apparently he put it in some kind of a liquid or something to try to preserve it.
Mm.
And when the skulls and stuff wouldn't preserve, he would crush them up and scatter them. Um, and I'm not actually sure, if he busted up the skulls. I don't remember reading if any of his victims were found. Um, I know they found a lot of the you know body parts in the freezer, and um, a barrel full of the remains that he didn't use. But I don't know. I don't think it was ever identified to exactly who's who in there. They know the name of all the victims, but they don't know, exactly who. They're just going on the names that he gave them that he murdered. But now that you got a little bit of an insight on who Dahmer was, what he committed, uh, how do you feel about you know his life and his sentence, and how he went out to opposed to how he could have gone out?
Yeah. You know, it's 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 hard to like say, but it's like, you know, people I wouldn't wish death on my worst enemy because you can't come back from that.
Right.
And for him to do all of this and get away with it for as long as he did, it's scary.
Oh yeah.
It's scary. And the thing about it is that they got people like that now.
Oh yeah.
And it's just scary the world that we live in, and you don't know who you can trust.
Really, like it's that is very true. Like it is truly terrifying not knowing, who your true neighbor is, or uh, who it is walking past your house in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. It's just really creepy.
It is. And that's why, I don't like when people tell me that they're going to the store at night if they do, I try to make sure that somebody's with them or they're on the phone with somebody at all times because you never know. You don't know. This day and age, it's scary, man.
Oh yeah.
It's really scary. You
Oh
know,
yeah. You know,
there's a lot of people out there that could imitate this guy.
oh yeah. And then the world, this was back in the 70s and 80s. The world's only gotten and still growing more corrupt than it was then. You know, but there was a lot of serial killers back in the 60s, the 70s. Another one, I tell you what, that I would love for us to actually dig into would be H.H. Holmes. He is said to be the first serial killer ever, aside from the infamous one that never was caught was Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, yeah.
Jack the Ripper. That was back in 1888, I believe, was when all the Jack the Ripper thing was going on. And like I've seen videos and tombstones of victims of Jack the Ripper, and it says right on their tombstone, murdered by Jack the Ripper.
Jeez.
But they never proved who he was. But yeah, I would love to dig into H.H. Holmes. He was, like I said, the first known serial killer in the world. Like we won't get into it today. Today's subject basically was Dahmer. And I'm telling you, then Dahmer literally sends chills up my spine. It's truly terrifying.
Just hearing everything like I'm never disturbed, but like talking about it, you think about all of this, and it's just like, man, like it's sad, it's scary, it's just, man.
It is. It is truly terrifying. And like, what would you do if you woke up knowing that you had a massive headache with a tube sticking out of your head, and a guy tells you that he just poured hydrochloric acid into your brain? Like, how would you respond to that?
Would you be able to respond to that?
I mean, he said that they woke up with headaches and that's why he strangled them. So I guess they wasn't fully functioning, like they was still, I mean, you figured hydrochloric acid, that would just like destroy your brain.
Right.
But apparently they just had a headache and they was just suffering more from the sleeping pills that he drugged them with. I couldn't. I would try to strangle him probably if I was able to move. Yeah, I'd be going after him.
Right.
But like I said, I feel horribly bad for his victims' families, the victims themselves. They may they had their own lifestyles that they had, but nobody deserves to go out like that. That's there's no excuse for what he done. To feed his own sick, twisted pleasures. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this one definitely was an episode for sure,
bro. And I mean, we're gonna. I guess we're gonna do a couple more like these.
Yeah, we have different stuff that we'll be hitting you guys with. You don't know what it is. That scares Senseless for a reason.
Yeah. We just don't know.
We don't know.
Well, we know. They don't
right.
know.
They don't know.
They don't know. They ain't ready.
They ain't ready. They ain't ready to get scared senseless.
Right. In all honesty, I wasn't ready for all the information that I dug up.
Man, to be honest, you did really good. And like I said, I kind of wanted a raw reaction. And I don't know if you guys could hear it in my tone, but I don't know, man. I couldn't get my words out. It was just like, I was thinking about it. It's like, oh my goodness. Like, whew.
Right.
It's like
Queen, she is. I know she was really tired tonight. That's why she's not with me. She is more factual on this type of stuff. So, future, she'll probably be here. She'll feed a little bit more of the facts, and she's just got this way of explaining it that makes it a little bit more creepier than what I do. Like, I wish she would have been in here with me because, when I was doing the research on Dahmer, I was calling her. I was like, "Yo, did you know this?" She's like, "Yeah, I knew that." And I'm like, "Fine." And I was wanting a raw reaction. I'm like, I was wanting to hear, "Oh my gosh,
Right.
are you serious?" She's like, "Yeah, I knew that." And I'm like, "You know what? You ruin everything for me when I call you."
And to be honest, man, you did a great job. I normally come with a lot of facts, but I felt like this was more of like your project, and I wanted you to present this to the world, and I really, really enjoyed this. And I appreciate you guys coming in for the Scared Senseless because, like I said, we have many more episodes, and I don't know what we're gonna hit y'all with.
Oh yeah, but I appreciate I appreciate you kind of let me take the reins on it. Let me kind of do the research, and I love watching your raw reactions. And we might have to make this like a back and forth thing. Maybe how I got your raw reactions. Maybe you can dig up some nasties and get my reactions sometimes.
And see, and my thing is you put a lot of good, like you worded a lot of good things. I don't know how far is the unknown. I don't want to push those lines, I guess you could say.
I got you.
But I think we can definitely do something. Like I said, you really got me off guard on this one. Like for sure, you got me. Like I know you and Queen know a lot when it comes to this, so I'm gonna have to dig deep into this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Next week's episode is going to be a trip. I'm not giving anything away.
I'm not either.
Uh, like I said, next week, if she would, I will get Queen on here. I guess she watches a lot of Kendall Ray on YouTube. I don't know if you've checked her out yet. She does a lot of true crime. She explains things, and the way she explains things is really, it catches you. Just way, and Queen is the same way. The way she explains things just kind of draws you in, makes you shut your mouth and listen, or at least me. She'll makes me shut my mouth all the time. But that's beside the point. We're talking about storytelling here.
Right.
And these ain't fake stories. These are real life
Life
events,
events.
which really makes it what's truly terrifying about it. This actually happened, and knowing the fact that his first murder was committed in Ohio, which I live literally 20 minutes away from Cincinnati. So this murder happened within 1 to 4 hours away. I'm not sure of the exact location. Knowing that it happened that close to home is really, really crazy. Oh, and Dahmer, before I forget, was also known as the Milwaukee Monster and the Milwaukee Cannibal.
Yeah,
And
I read that.
yeah, the Wisconsin Monster or Milwaukee Monster, something like that. Yeah, he had a lot of names that I gotta say, he truly earned. I have no respect for the man. I don't approve of anything that he done. However, the one thing that I do respect is that he was man enough to take full responsibility and admit to what he done. He
Right.
didn't blame it on his parents. He didn't blame it on his friends. He didn't blame it on the alcoholism. Once again, he took full responsibility, and he tried his best to get the public to see that. And they asked him. They said, if you was released, would you go back to murdering? He said, yeah, probably. But yeah, on that note, we'll get off the subject of Dahmer. This has been a really fun week doing all the research. It was a lot of fun because I work security. I got nothing to do but sit there and watch cameras. So I'm just sitting there like watching YouTube videos and reading on Wikipedia and getting all the facts and pictures and everything that I can.
See, I will admit it might be a little easier for you to get me before I get you because you probably know you got more time. But you know what? I'm gonna see if I can make something happen. We gonna make next week.
You got me excited. You can't do it. Get me excited now.
Oh man, I'm really excited. Like I really gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this. Like what I'm gonna do, and yeah.
Yeah, you got me pumped up for it now. I'm curious what you're coming up with. I do want to make one more announcement here.
What you got?
And I'm not throwing you under the bus here, Big J. Okay. But it'll happen down the road. But I mentioned about talking about Lizzie Borden one time. Okay. Like I said, this is going to happen down the road. We don't know when. We don't know how. We don't know what it's going to be about. We know it's going to be about Lizzie Borden. But when I mention this, Big J comes at me with, you're going to have to explain to me who that is. What are you getting all choked up for there, Big J?
Oh man.
I had to throw you.
Hey man, you know, like I said, some of these people I may not know, but I gotta do some research. I admit, but you know, there's the main events that you know a lot of people know.
Oh yeah, like I said, that'll happen down the road. I just wanted to throw that out there that you was unfamiliar with Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
I think on that one, Queen is very, very knowledgeable on that one.
We'll definitely have to get her in on that one.
Oh yeah, she'll probably even spit facts that's going to blow my mind. I still don't know. I still don't know 100% on that.
Oh man, this is getting me really excited for next week's episode. I don't even have an idea, but I do assure that I will definitely make sure you all are scared senseless.
Sounds like a winner.
So with that being said, I mean, do we have anything else that we want to address or?
I think I'm good with leaving it there. Let's see what we can do. I hope this kind of creeped y'all out. I hope this also gave everybody listening, watching, more of an insight of what really goes on in the world, to try to stay safe
at all times.
At all times. If you see anything suspicious, definitely report it. Don't be afraid of the whole being a rat thing. It's better safe than sorry. Who knows? You might save a life. You might save your own.
True.
So
very true.
I hope this is kind of an eye opener for a lot of people that there really is some sick and twisted people out there. You never know.
With that being said, it's your boy Bearded King 33, your boy Big J2 Lit, and you have been scared. Senseless.